But you can see how it went together. The joins are quite spectacular. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and today I'm going to be looking at this Academy kit of the Titanic. Now, the Titanic is a very, very famous passenger liner. I'm not going to get into history because I'm sure everyone would know about it, and if you don't, you'll find plenty of information online. But this is a really nice kit. This is from Academy, and this is actually an LED lit version. And they designed this so that it's really easy to assemble. So it's more about the finishing the product than complexity. So let's have a closer look from the top. Really nice artwork here. This is a photo of the actual model. So you can see how once it's lit, you have all of the portholes all illuminated from the inside. Okay, let's crack it open and look inside. All right, so we're greeted with a very nice firm box. Keeps everything all nice and sturdy, undamaged. And then you can see here, to start off with, the hull is already in 3 different colors. So this is what they call a multi-colored part system. Well, that's what I'm calling it anyway. So why don't we start off with this and see how we go. So the design is so it doesn't need any painting at all. I mean, if you did want to paint it, it would end up looking a little bit nicer, but you can see these are actually individually molded in their colors. So just pull it apart like this. And this is how we get to the insides to light it up. And then you've got your actual waterline like so. But you can see how it went together. The joins are quite spectacular. Okay, so when we press it together, you can see how tight that join line, you can barely see it. Let's just put this one back on. Okay, and let's zoom in. Get the focus right. And look at that. How good is that join? You can see there's just a slight amount of gap, but it's hardly noticeable. And then when you glue it together, you're not going to see that at all. But as I'm moving that, you can see how there's the holes there. That's how you're going to get the illumination coming through it. And actually, as I'm going along like this, you can see all the really nice panel detail. So there's individual metal plates. And then you can see here, you've got the anchor area just there. Super nice. And you'll notice too that it doesn't have that really glossy finish. So there again, it doesn't have that ugly shiny plastic that looks like a toy if you didn't paint it. It looks quite decent, non-painted. Okay, so there's your hull. That's very impressive to start with. Now, what scale was this again? So it's a 1:700 scale. So that gives you an impression of how big the actual ship was, because you get battleships from World War II and they'll probably be around this sort of size. Aircraft carriers, similar sort of size. But if you compare it to a modern ocean liner, this is actually tiny. Modern liners are absolutely massive. Okay, let's put that aside. Let's have a look at some of these other bits that they give you. Okay, so here's a bag of bits here. This is all the decking and what looks like the stand. Okay, so in tan color. Again, so that you don't really need to paint much. You can see here that you've got decking, so you've got multiple pieces. There'll be probably more white parts that'll sit on here, but they've done the color separation very, very well. Spin this back around and let's do a little tight zoom, and you'll be able to see the actual detail of the surface here. There you go. Let's spin that around, you'll be able to see all the timber decking. And then you can actually see the chains on this bow section there too, just at the front end there. And there you've got area there. This would normally have glass in there, so I guess you could paint those up to look like glass. Easiest way to represent glass is just paint it blue. I guess it looks like a reflection from the sky. Okay, so there are your decking bits. And then we have this small sheet of black parts. So you've got a stand. There's a stand there. And I'm pretty sure this is where the batteries are going to be sitting. So within here, you've got an area where the batteries will sit. And you may not be able to see, but there's an impression here which you can cut out for the actual light switch. And then the other parts, you have some, what do you call those? What do you call those rigging ropes that you climb up the funnels? Don't know. You've got sections of the funnels there too. So you've got 4 funnel tips, I think. You've got the prop shaft and the props. So there's 3 props there. A few other little bits and pieces there too. Okay, now what have we got next? So let's get out this big sprue here. So this is the largest sprue. This one here, it's all white. What I might do is I'm going to get something else so that's a bit easier to see. Hopefully this isn't too blinding. We're going to go blue. All right, so blue. Hopefully the white shows up, and it does. Okay, so it's quite a big piece of sprue. This has got all the side, I guess you call them the rooms. You've got the bridge here. And these are all white parts, okay? So you don't need to paint any of these. You got some railings along the sides. These are the davits with lifeboats. Some cranes, and that'll be the cranes here as well. So those are the bases of the cranes. I think there's a ship's wheel just there. Just spinning it around. So all these parts are really quite nicely molded. I mean, it is a small scale, so 1/700 scale. But you can see the boats there, all the individual lifeboats with the davits in between. And these are the parts for the crane, so you can see the base of the cranes there. And then they're the actual arms of the cranes. Now there's a bridge section here, that one there. Got some additional lifeboats there. And where did I see that ship's wheel again? I lost it, there it is. Right there. Okay. Alright, so they're your big parts there. We end up with a few other little bits. So here we've got the funnels. Funnels are nicely molded. You can see the sprue here. See how they're angled like this? That means it's been slide molded. So normally you have a mold where you got this side, then you got this side. That's a traditional mold. This one also has another one which slides in like this. And that's how they do the hollows on your funnels. Okay, so they're nicely molded in the orangey color. That's a particular orange for the Titanic. And then we've got some brown parts. So these are your, actually, let's swap over again. Let's change over to the white. There's our masts. They've been brown. And then there's a variety of things here which look like seats. So these are all the seats on the decks. And they're all there as well. Let's see if we can get a closer look at that. Really tiny, aren't they? Minuscule. So that's a whole heap of decking seats. And there's your mast. So one of those masts would have had the crow's nest in it. Most likely this one, I think. They're quite tall. Okay, and while I've got that zoomed in, so you do get these props as well. So we did have the black props there before, but there's also the gold plated ones. For a bit of bling, I guess. Okay. Now apart from that, we're going to have one more packet, which is all the lighting. Okay, so you got all the lights in here. So I've got this clear section here. Might be a bit hard to see. Just see that it's a bit like a bit of vinyl. So this will be the part, I think it separates the electronics from any exposure, I guess, in case you short circuit anything. And then we have, this is really clever, this is actually conductive tape. So you don't need to do any soldering. This one, you just stick it over the contacts of the LEDs and the battery terminals, and that's it. Switch it on, put some batteries in it, and it works. We've got a little battery case. Okay, so it takes AAAs, 2 AAAs, and then it's also been separated on the ends there. So all you need to do is pull off the end tabs, and you'll have exposed wires, which you just tape down with that conductive tape I showed you. Little switch and some more wiring inside this packet. We've got a little bag of LEDs. So the clear LEDs, we get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's 8. Yep, that's 8 LEDs. And they just put it throughout the hull. So you can see they're pretty big LEDs. So having 8 in there will give you a really nice, even illumination. And then you end up with some decals. So the decals are really tiny. But you've got some flags there. You've got the Titanic marks for the hull. And the flags there. White starred line, British flag, American flag. Okay, so that's all the parts. Now let's have a look at the manual. So this will give an indication. The manual is actually in 2 parts. So they didn't print it on the one, which makes it a bit unusual. It's actually in 2 bits there. Okay, so let's start off with here. So we've got a bit of history. So again, at the beginning, I didn't talk about the history, but it doesn't matter. You've got history here, or you can look it up. Plenty of movies, documentaries, all that sort of stuff. Over here, we've got our paint guide, and they've got the colors there to suit Humbrol, GSI Creos or Mr. Color, your Life Color, Testers, Model Master, I'm not sure if they're around anymore, Revell Color, and Vallejo. Now, as we open it up, it's going to be one of these flip type ones. So starting with section 1, we'll start on the bow. You've got all the capstans going on and the crane. We've got the mast there with, that'll have the crow's nest in it. So that's where the, what do you call them? The stuff that had the binoculars but didn't have binoculars. And he yelled out, there's an iceberg. So you've got some cranes there. And we'll move along here. A lot more stuff along the hull. So you've got the bow here. We've got all these little bits and pieces getting mounted on top. More cranes at the back. You've got, actually there's a wheel there, but I don't think that's actually the main wheel. That was a wheelie thing I saw before. Here we go, starting with the superstructure, building up. These are all the various rooms along the top of the deck. Going together here, got a lookout. Part 8, we've got the lifeboats going in. More capstans going around. We've got the funnel construction here, so 4 funnels in total. We've got the top section, which is like a sub-assembly, that's getting mounted here. And this is where we start mounting the LEDs. So that clear section that I told you before, that's where you put in your LEDs. And I guess that helps them separate the arm so that you don't get any short circuits. So you can see how you mount them into the slots that is supplied, bend the anode and the other wire, so you get a V section. You wire them up, and these are all held into place with that conductive tape. So once you've done that, you're just going to pull apart the hull as I've had it before. Okay, so you just need to take off this top section, and the LEDs live in this part. And then that all gets connected. The wires, the power wires, get fed all the way through the bottom here, and that's where they're going to go through the base. So over here we've got the prop shafts and the props going into place. We've got some of the railing around the front. Here's the construction of the base as I showed before. So your battery pack is double-sided taped in here, and then this is where your switch ends up. So you need to cut out a little section there for the switch to actually protrude through the base. And that's where we move on to our second set of instructions. So that was step 19, we move on to step 20. And this is where we feed the wires through the actual stand supports, mount up the hull, and the final wiring here. Okay, so it shows you how to wire up on the switch. There's 3 points on the switch. Move on to 22. So you've got all of your earlier constructed sub-assemblies of the decks. They get put into place. Finally, you've got one more mast. You've got the bridge area, some more cranes, and then you test your little switch there, put in the batteries, and then you've got your little flags and your other decals. And then you're finished. So on the back of here, you've got a legend of all your parts. So that helps you find all the bits that the instructions are telling you to find. And that's it for part 2 of that instruction manual. So there you go. So that is my open box review of the Academy 1/700 scale Titanic model with LED lighting. Really nice model. It does say it's high, sort of medium skill level. I think it's sort of low skill level, really. It does need some glue, but I don't think it really is that difficult. So it does need some understanding of electronics, but the instructions are very, very basic. And the method they've used is very clever, so it's not that difficult to understand. So give it a go. If you like this video, please consider giving me a like below. And if you'd like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. We have a video going out every day. So thank you for watching.